I walked into the kitchen and saw my dishes in the trash. My daughter-in-law said to me, "Mom, they were old. I bought new stuff." I looked at her calmly and replied, "Well, you're going to use them in your new house because you're not staying here anymore." It was time to remind her who pays the bills around here. I know what you're thinking. It sounds harsh, right? A mother-in-law kicking her daughter-in-law out on the street. But let me tell you what really happened that Tuesday morning when everything I'd put up with for 8 months finally exploded. It was 7 in the morning. Eleanor Thompson, 68 years old, had just woken up in my own house. Well, technically, it was my house because for a while now, it hadn't felt like mine. I went down the stairs like every morning in my fuzzy slippers that squeak against the tile floor. I was thinking about making myself a cinnamon coffee, the kind I like to sip while watching the sunrise from the kitchen window. My little ritual of peace before the daily chaos started. But when I pushed open the kitchen door, something was different. The trash can was open and peeking over the edge. I saw a flash of cobalt blue that stopped my heart. I approached slowly, almost without breathing. And there it was, my dish set. Not just any dish set. My cobalt blue porcelain with gold edges, the one my husband Henry gave me on our wedding day 45 years ago. The dish set we used to celebrate our son Ryan's first birthday. The dish set we used to host my parents for their last Christmas before they passed away. The dish set with that chip on one of the plates because Henry dropped it while washing up, and he swore he'd never break anything of mine again. I never fixed it. That chip was part of our story, and now it was in the trash among eggshells and used napkins. I pulled out a plate with trembling hands. My heart was pounding so hard I felt the pulse in my temples. "How did it get there? Who dared? Oh, Mom, you're up already!" Karen's voice cut through me like a cold knife. I turned around. There she was, my daughter-in-law, in her pink satin pajamas and her hair perfectly brushed, even though it was barely 7 in the morning. Always impeccable, always in control. "Karen." My voice came out weaker than I wanted. "Why are my dishes in the trash?" She didn't even blink. She poured herself a glass of water from the new filter she'd installed without asking me, and looked at me with that smile I knew too well. That smile that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, that, "Yeah, Mom. It's because they were really old. Look, they were even chipped. Yesterday I went to the mall and bought a new set. More modern, see." She pointed to the cupboard. There, where my blue plates used to live now, there was a minimalist white set. Cold. No history. No soul. "But Karen, those dishes were from my wedding. You had no right to—" "Oh, Mom, don't get like that. They were just old plates. Besides, the house needed an update. Ryan agrees too. We're in 2025 now. We can't live surrounded by antiques." Antiques. She called 45 years of my life antiques. I felt something break inside me. But it wasn't my heart. It was something deeper. It was the last thread of patience I had left. Because those dishes in the trash weren't just broken porcelain. They were the perfect symbol of everything that had happened in these 8 months since Karen and Ryan moved in temporarily to my house. If you want to know how a 68-year-old retired accountant owner of her own home ended up feeling like an intruder in her own place, stay with me. Because this story is just beginning. And what I discovered after those dishes in the trash was much worse than I imagined. But before I continue, if stories like this touch your heart, subscribe to Elderly Stories. Here we share real stories of women who found their strength when everything seemed lost. Now let me tell you how we got to that cursed Tuesday. Because to understand why those dishes were the straw that broke the camel's back, you need to know what happened before. You need to know the mistake I made, the mistake of trusting too much. And it all started 8 months ago with a phone call that would change my life forever. 8 months before finding my dishes in the trash, I got a call that broke my soul. It was Ryan, my only son, my boy. Well, not such a boy anymore. 32 years old, civil engineer, married to Karen for 3 years. He'd always been responsible, hard-working, or so I thought. "Mom, I need to talk to you." His voice sounded broken, tired. I knew right away something bad had happened. "Tell me, son, what happened." "I got laid off. The construction company went bankrupt. They left us all on the street with no severance, nothing, and Karen is 6 months pregnant." My blood ran cold. My son without a job. A granddaughter on the way. What mother wouldn't do anything? "What do you need?" I asked without hesitation. There was a long silence, too long. "Mom, I know it's a lot to ask, but could we stay with you for a few months? Just until I find another job. We're behind on rent. They're going to evict us from the apartment. Karen can't work because of the high-risk pregnancy and— Come." I didn't let him finish. "This is your home. It always has been." I heard his sigh of relief. Then Karen's voice in the background, high-pitched and excited. "She said yes. Oh, thanks, Mom." I hung up the phone, with my heart tight but full of purpose. Of course I'd help them. Ryan was my blood, and that baby on the way would be my first granddaughter. My family needed me. I spent that whole week preparing the guest room. Changed sheets, got out clean towels, bought diapers and baby clothes. I even painted one wall with a mural of clouds and stars, thinking of my future granddaughter. They arrived on a Sunday afternoon with 2 suitcases and lots of promises. "It'll only be 2 months, Max, Mom. You'll see. I'll find something soon." Ryan assured me while carrying up the boxes. Karen hugged me. She smelled like expensive perfume. Too expensive for someone with no income. "Oh, Mom, you don't know how much we appreciate this. I promise we won't be a bother." How naive I was to believe her. The first few days were normal. Ryan left early to drop off resumes. Karen rested because of her pregnancy. I cooked for the 3 of us, happy to have the house full again. Since I became a widow 7 years ago, silence had been my only companion. But the signs started soon. First it was the curtains. One Tuesday I came back from grocery shopping and the beige curtains in the living room were gone. In their place hung dark gray ones that made everything look like a funeral. "Oh, Mom, it's because the others were so faded. I got these on sale," Karen said, like it was nothing. Then it was the couch. She moved it without asking why. "This way, the light comes in better." The couch where Henry and I watched TV every night. The couch where I rocked Ryan when he was a baby. Then it was the music. Karen blasted pop music at full volume while I tried to read. When I asked her to turn it down, she sighed like I was some bitter old lady. "It's because the baby needs stimulation, Mom. I read it in a book." And I stayed quiet. Because they needed support. Because they were my family. Because a mother doesn't abandon her son in a storm. But the storm was just beginning. And I didn't know that the one who would end up drowning was me. 2 months turned into 3, 3 into 4, and little by little my house stopped being mine. But the worst hadn't come yet. Nobody warns you when you stop being the owner of your own house. There's no exact moment. It's like sand slipping through your fingers. One day, you have control. And the next, you wake up as a visitor in your own home. That's what happened to me. By the 4th month, Karen didn't ask permission for anything. She just did it. One Saturday, I came back from the market with my bags of veggies and nearly fell over in shock. All the living room furniture was piled in the hallway. My mahogany bookshelf, the wedding photos, the sideboard I inherited from my grandma. "What's going on?" I asked with my heart racing. Karen appeared from the living room with a tape measure in hand. "Oh, Mom, good you're here. Look, I hired a guy to help take this furniture to the basement. It's because with the baby, we'll need more space. I'm putting a playpen here and a rocker there. Doesn't it seem perfect?" She wasn't asking. She was informing. "But Karen, this furniture has sentimental value. They can't go to the basement. They'll ruin with the humidity." She looked at me with that expression I knew, that mix of pity and impatience. "Mom, understand. We're not in the 80s anymore. This furniture is so outdated. Besides, what's the point of keeping nice things stored away? The baby needs space." And she called the guy waiting outside. Between them, they started taking my memories down to the damp basement, while I watched powerless with the grocery bag still in my hands. That night, I cried in my room. But I said nothing because Ryan worked late looking for jobs, because Karen was pregnant and I didn't want to stress her, because I was the mom, the mother-in-law, the one who had to endure everything for the family's sake. By the 5th month, Karen's mother arrived, without warning. I was preparing lunch when I heard the door open. Women's voices, laughter. I entered the living room, and there she was, a lady with huge sunglasses and a travel suitcase. "Oh, Mom!" Karen shouted excitedly. Look, let me introduce you to my mom, Mrs. Edith. She's staying a few days to help with the pregnancy, Mrs. Edith extended her hand lazily without taking off the sunglasses. Nice to meet you. Karen has told me a lot about you. Probably nothing good, I thought. Of course, welcome, I said, forcing a smile. A few days turned into 2 weeks. Mrs. Edith took over the remote, criticized my cooking, left her things scattered all over the house, and worst, she filled Karen's head with ideas. Honey, why don't you ask your mother-in-law for the big room? Your room is too small for the baby. Mom, I already told her, but she says that was her master bedroom. Oh, but your mother-in-law is alone. What does she need so much space for? Besides, when you lend your house, you do it completely right. I heard everything from the kitchen with my hands sunk in soapy water washing the dishes they left dirty. I breathed deep. Don't say anything, Eleanor, don't cause problems. But the problems were already here, living in my living room, sleeping in my guest room, breathing my air, and when Mrs. Edith finally left, she left something worse than her suitcase. She left Karen convinced that I should give in more, that my house should be completely hers. By the 6th month, Ryan got a job. Part-time, low-paying, but something was something. I thought they'd leave soon, but when I brought it up one night at dinner, they both looked uncomfortable. Mom, it's just that it still doesn't cover decent rent, Ryan said, avoiding my eyes. And with the baby coming, we need to save, Karen added, touching her belly. Right, Mom, you understand. Of course I understood. I understood they were using me, but my mouth said, yes, of course, stay as long as you need. That night I couldn't sleep because something inside me screamed that I'd lost control, that I'd crossed a line I couldn't come back from. But I still didn't imagine how far they'd go. Chloe was born on a Tuesday at dawn. I remember every detail of that night. Karen's scream from her room. Ryan running for the car, keys me with my heart in my throat, helping her down the stairs. At the hospital, I waited 8 hours in that cold room that smelled like disinfectant and reheated coffee, and when they finally let me in, and I saw that little creature wrapped in pink blankets with her tiny hands and closed eyes, the world stopped. My granddaughter. The first time I held her, I felt everything was worth it. All the discomforts, all the sacrifices, all the space I'd given up. Nothing mattered compared to that warm weight in my arms. She's perfect, I whispered with tears falling down my cheeks. Karen looked at me from the hospital bed with a strange smile, like she'd won something. And boy, had she won, because from that moment, Chloe became the most powerful weapon Karen had against me. We got home 3 days later. I'd prepared everything: diapers, washed clothes, sterilized bottles. I even bought a beautiful wooden crib that I placed in their room. But on the 2nd day, Karen came into the kitchen while I was making breakfast. Mom, we need to talk. I turned. She had Chloe in her arms, using my granddaughter as a shield. Tell me. It's about my room. It's too small for the 3 of us. The baby cries at night and we don't have space for all her things. I need you to give me the big room. The big room. My room. The one I shared with Henry for 35 years. Karen, that room has so many memories for me. It's where... Mom, think about your granddaughter. She interrupted firmly. Are you really going to deny her a comfortable space? You're alone. I have to care for a newborn. What's more important? I was speechless. Why? How do you argue against that? How do you say no when they frame it as choosing between your comfort and your granddaughter's well-being? Give me a few days to think about it, I said with a broken voice. Okay. But while you think the baby is suffering in that little room, I barely slept last night. 5 days later, I was sleeping in the small room, and Karen had turned my master bedroom into a baby suite with crib-changing table rocker and even a mini fridge for bottles. She didn't ask for help moving my things. One day I came back from the bank, and it was just done. But that was just the start. Mom, why do you cook with so much garlic and onion? It hurts the baby through my milk. Mom, don't wear that perfume. The chemicals affect newborns. Mom, can you turn down the TV? The baby needs quiet to sleep. Mom, my mom says babies need constant temperature. Can you leave the AC on all day? I pay. "Oh no, wait, you pay the electric bill, but it's for Chloe, right?" Every request came wrapped in my granddaughter's name. And I accepted everything because every time I saw that perfect little face, every time Chloe grabbed my finger with her tiny hand or gave me a toothless smile, I melted. Karen knew it, and she used it. By the 7th month, I had to give up my sewing room. That room where I spent afternoons mending clothes, where I had my old Singer machine, my fabrics, my patterns, my space of peace. "It's because we need a playroom for when Chloe grows," Karen said one Sunday while we had coffee. "She'll be 2 months soon and she'll need early stimulation. Your sewing can wait. Right, Mom?" I packed my machines in boxes, put my fabrics in plastic bags, took it all down to the damp basement where my grandma's furniture already was. That night I sat on the edge of my new bed in the room that used to be the guest room and looked at myself in the mirror across. A 68-year-old woman with whiter hair than before, deep dark circles, living like a guest in the house she built with 40 years of work. How had I gotten here? Ryan worked so much I barely saw him. When I mentioned something about Karen, he'd say, "Mom, she just wants the best for Chloe." "You do too, right?" And I'd nod because yes, I wanted the best for my granddaughter, but no one asked what was best for me. And then came that cursed Tuesday, the day of the dishes in the trash, the day something inside me finally said enough. There I was standing in front of the trash can with that cobalt blue plate shaking in my hands. 45 years of marriage reduced to garbage. Karen was still there drinking her water, like nothing, like she'd just thrown away an old newspaper, not the memories of my whole life. "You know what, Mom? You should thank me. Those dishes made the kitchen look so outdated. Now everything looks cleaner, more modern. I even took photos for my Instagram. Look." She showed me her phone. There they were. Photos of the new kitchen with the new dishes, with a caption that said "Refreshing Spaces." Sometimes you have to let go of the old to welcome the new. 52 comments, all telling her how nice it looked. No one knew that the old she'd let go of were my memories, that each plate in those dishes had a story. "These dishes," I said with a trembling voice. "My husband gave them to me on our wedding day. We ate our first breakfast as a married couple on these plates. We celebrated Ryan's first birthday with these dishes. The last Christmas with my parents was served here." Karen rolled her eyes. "Oh, Mom, but they're just plates. You can't live in the past. Henry died 7 years ago. Your parents too. Ryan is grown. Life goes on, and this house needed an update." Just plates. Henry died, as if love erased with death, as if memories were worth nothing. I pulled another plate from the trash. It had coffee stains stuck on. They'd used it that same morning and then thrown it away like it was disposable. "See this chip?" I pointed to the edge of the plate. "Your husband, my son Ryan, was 3 years old. Henry was washing dishes after dinner. This plate slipped from him. He got so scared he almost cried. He said, 'Love, forgive me, I broke your wedding plate.' And I told him it didn't matter, accidents happen. I never fixed it because that chip reminded me that nothing has to be perfect to be valuable." Karen sighed with exasperation. "Mom, are we really making drama over a chipped plate? Look, if it matters that much, keep that one. I threw the rest away. The garbage truck comes in an hour." An hour. I had an hour to rescue 45 years of my life before they ended up in the city dump. I knelt in front of the can. I started pulling out the plates one by one. 8 plates, 6 bowls, 4 cups, the big soup tureen, the small creamer, all stained with trash covered in eggshells and food scraps. Karen watched me from above with arms crossed. "Oh, Mom, are you really pulling that out? It's all filthy." Yes, I was pulling it out. Piece by piece, because these dishes weren't trash. These dishes were me. They were my history. They were proof that I'd existed. I'd loved, I'd built a family. And someone had thrown them away like they were worthless. I finished pulling everything out. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I felt the pulse in my ears. I stood up slowly, very slowly, because something inside me was changing. Something that had been asleep for 8 months was finally waking up. I looked Karen straight in the eyes. "These dishes are worth more than all your new stuff combined, because these dishes have soul. They have history. They have love. You know what your white plates have? Nothing. They're as empty as you." Karen's eyes widened in surprise. She'd never heard me talk like that. "Excuse me." "I don't excuse you, not anymore." I carried my dishes to the sink and started washing them, piece by piece, with care, with respect. Karen stood there not knowing what to say. For the first time in 8 months, she didn't have control of the situation, and while I washed those dishes covered in trash while I removed the dirt she'd put on them, I made a decision. This had just become a war, and I wasn't planning to lose. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the bed in the small room, my room now with the lights off, looking out the window at how the moon lit the garden that Henry and I planted so many years ago. The clean dishes rested in a box beside me. I dried them with the same care as holding a newborn. Each piece represented something Karen had tried to erase, but I wasn't dumb. The dishes weren't the real problem. The problem was I'd become a stranger in my own house, and worst of all, I'd allowed it. At 3 in the morning, I turned on the nightstand lamp. I pulled out a green folder from the drawer where I kept all my important documents. I needed to see things clearly, with numbers, with facts, the house deed, in my name. I paid for it with 40 years of work as an accountant at a mid-sized firm. Every dollar of this property came from my effort, my late nights, my sacrifices. I opened my bank statement. I started adding up expenses from the last 8 months. Electricity, $189 a month, times 8 months, $1,512. Consumption had tripled since they arrived. AC all day for Chloe. Lights on in every room because Karen was afraid of the dark. Water, $64 a month, 512 wonsils total. Karen showered twice a day. The washer ran daily with small loads because she didn't like mixing the baby's clothes with anything else. Gas, $120 monthly, $960 accumulated. Karen cooked at all hours and left the stove on so the bottled water was always ready. Internet, $59 a month, $472. She used it to watch her shows while Chloe slept and post photos on Instagram of my remodeled house. Groceries, I paid for everything. Average $350 weekly for 4 people. $11,200 in 8 months. Karen asked for expensive brands' organic products for the baby things I never bought when living alone. I added it all up. I stared at the final number without breathing. $14,656. In 8 months, I'd spent almost $15,000 keeping 3 people who treated me like a maid in my own house. And what had Ryan contributed $150 every 2 weeks when he could? $300 a month. $400 in 8 months at most. And Karen, zero. Absolutely nothing. Not a dollar. Not even a bit of genuine gratitude. I kept reviewing papers. I found the receipt for the new dishes. $1,850. Bought at Macy's with home delivery. But wait, I looked closer. The payment method said Visa card ending in 4829. I didn't have any card ending in 4829. I checked my full statements, and there it was, a $1,850 charge at Macy's 3 weeks ago, on my credit card, the one I'd kept in the drawer of my desk in the big room, the room that was now Karen's. The air left my lungs. Karen had used my card without permission. She'd gone into my desk, taken my card, and bought new dishes to replace mine. With my own money. That wasn't disrespect. That was theft. I got up from the bed shaking, not from fear, from rage. I paced the small room trying to process what I'd just discovered. How many more times had she used my card? What else had she bought with my money? I checked all the transactions from recent months. And there they were. Charges I didn't recognize. Clothes at Zara, makeup at Sephora, decor at Home Depot, shoes at Amazon. It all added up to $300 more. Karen had been stealing from me for months, and I hadn't noticed. Because I trusted. Because they were family. Because you don't watch your own blood. I sat on the floor with all the papers scattered around me. The tears started falling. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of clarity. I finally saw the truth. Ryan and Karen weren't here temporarily. They weren't saving to leave. They were using me as a free hotel while spending my money on luxuries. And when there was nothing left to take from me, they'd leave me alone again. but this time without a house, without savings, without dignity. That wasn't going to happen. I looked at the clock. 4:30 in the morning. In 3 hours the bank would open. And I had calls to make. Because if 40 years working with numbers taught me anything, it's this. Always have evidence before acting. And I already had all the evidence I needed. But before making any legal move, I needed to be completely sure of something. I needed to know if Ryan and Karen really saw me as family or just a source of resources. I needed a final test to remove any doubt, any guilt, because suspecting is one thing and knowing for sure is another. So 2 days after finding the charges on my card, I decided to do an experiment. A painful one, but necessary. It was Thursday morning. Ryan had already left for work. Karen was in the living room watching videos on her phone while Chloe slept in the playpen. I approached slowly, putting my hand on my chest. I let my breathing get a little ragged. I leaned on the doorframe. "Karen," I said weakly. She didn't even look up from the phone. "What is it, Mom?" "I feel bad. My chest hurts a lot. I can't breathe well." Now she looked, but with annoyance, not concern. "Oh, Mom again with your aches. It's probably heartburn. Have some chamomile tea." "No, Karen, this is different. The pain goes to my left arm. My dad died of a heart attack and I'm scared." I let myself fall onto the couch, really acting the pain, because I needed to see how far her indifference would go. Karen sighed. She got up from the sofa lazily. "And what do you want me to do? I can't take you to the doctor. I have to watch Chloe." "Please, can you call Ryan? Or take me and bring the baby with us? I really feel awful." Karen checked her phone. She made a face of irritation. "Oh no, Mom, today is Thursday. I have plans to meet my friends at noon for lunch. I haven't gone out in 2 weeks. You can't ask me to cancel." I stared at her, waiting for it to be a joke. Waiting for her to say, "Just kidding, of course I'll take you." But she didn't. "Karen, I'm telling you my chest hurts. It could be a heart attack." "Oh, Mom, don't be dramatic. If it was a heart attack, you'd be on the floor already. Besides, you've always been healthy. It's probably stress or something you ate. Rest a bit, and if it doesn't go away, call a cab. I really can't cancel. My friends are already on their way." She turned and went upstairs to get ready. I sat there, hands still on my chest, processing what just happened. It wasn't acting anymore. The chest pain was real now. But it didn't come from the physical heart. It came from realizing that for Karen, a lunch with friends was more important than my life. I waited 5 more minutes. Karen came down perfectly made up with her designer bag that I never knew how she paid for. Now I knew with my card. "Mom, you're still there. I told you to have tea, and please watch Chloe. I'll be back around 5. And she left. She left me alone, supposedly with chest pain, to go eat with her friends. I stayed still for a moment. Then I pulled out my phone and called the only person I knew would come. "Mrs. Eleanor," answered Mrs. Rebecca, my lifelong neighbor. "Rebecca, can you take me to Dr. Newman's office? I don't feel well." "I'm coming right now." 3 minutes later, she was knocking on my door. She helped me into her car and drove to the neighborhood doctor's office. Dr. Newman, who'd known me for 20 years, checked me carefully. High blood pressure, fast heart rate, chest tension. "Eleanor, this isn't a heart attack, but it's a serious warning. It's chronic stress, anxiety. Your body is crying for help." "What's going on in your life?" And there in that office that smelled like alcohol and cotton, with Mrs. Rebecca holding my hand, it all came out. I told him about Karen, about the invaded house, about the dishes in the trash, about the stolen money, about this morning when she left me alone, thinking I might be dying. "Eleanor," the doctor said firmly, "if you don't do something soon, the next chest pain will be real. Your body can't take more." Mrs. Rebecca squeezed my hand. "Friend, it's time. That girl is killing you little by little, and you're letting her." They were right. Both were right. The test was over, and the result was devastating. For Karen, I wasn't family. I was a resource, a free hotel, an open wallet, and Ryan, my son didn't even know what was happening because he was never there, and when he was, he didn't want to see. I left that office with a prescription for blood pressure and an absolute certainty in my heart. It was over. That same night, I'd start my plan. Because it wasn't just about money or dishes anymore, it was about my life. And I wasn't planning to die as a stranger in my own house. I got home after 4 in the afternoon. Karen still wasn't back from her lunch with friends. I went straight to the small room and locked the door. I pulled out my old notebook, one of those hardcovers I use for accounts, and started writing. A plan step by step. But first, I needed professional help. Someone who knew the laws, someone I could trust completely. I dialed a number I'd had saved for years. "Aunt Eleanor," answered a young, surprised voice. "Valerie, my girl, I need your help." Valerie was my niece, daughter of my younger sister who passed away 10 years ago. I'd helped with part of her law school. Now she worked at a firm specializing in family and civil law. "Of course, Aunt, what happened?" "You sound worried." "Can you come tomorrow? I need legal advice, and keep this between us." There was a pause. Valerie was smart. She immediately understood something serious was happening. "Tomorrow at 10, I'm there. Are you okay?" "Perfect. And Valerie, thanks." That night when Karen came back at 8, not 5, like she'd promised, smelling of wine and with shopping bags, I already had half the plan ready. The next day, Friday, Ryan left early. Karen announced she was going with Chloe to her mom's for a few hours. It was the perfect time. Valerie arrived on time. I saw her from the window getting out of her car with a professional briefcase. Tall hair, tied back navy suit. The daughter my sister would have been proud to see. I opened before she knocked. "Come in quick." We sat in the kitchen. I served her coffee and put everything on the table. Bank statements, receipts, the house deed photos of the unauthorized charges. Valerie reviewed it all with lawyer eyes. Her expression hardened with each document. "Aunt, this is fraud. Unauthorized use of credit card. You can file a criminal complaint against Karen. I don't want to put her in jail. I just want them out of my house and my money back." "I understand. Then we'll do this." Valerie pulled out her laptop and started typing. "First, we'll make an eviction notice. You have full legal right. This is your house, in your name. They don't pay rent or have a lease. We'll give them 30 days to vacate. And if they refuse, then judicial eviction proceeds, but with this document you have legal backing. Second, you need to block all your cards today, call the bank, and report the unauthorized charges. Won't that get Karen in trouble?" "Aunt, she's already in trouble. She committed a crime. You're being kind by not reporting her directly to the police." Valerie kept typing. The keyboard sound filled the kitchen like a war drum. "Third, we'll calculate everything they owe you. Utilities, food, use of your property. If you want a settlement, you have legal basis to demand compensation." We spent 3 hours reviewing everything. Valerie drafted an impeccable document, formal but clear. When she finished, she showed me. Eviction notice. It specified that Ryan Thompson and Karen Miller had 30 days to vacate the property at 847 Maple Avenue, Pleasant Valley suburb. Attached was a copy of the deed and a breakdown of expenses. "This has legal weight, Aunt. If you sign and deliver it with witnesses present, they can't claim later they didn't know." Witnesses. "Yes, I can be one, and we need another person. Mrs. Rebecca." I nodded. My neighbor wouldn't hesitate to help. "One more thing, Aunt." Valerie looked at me seriously. "Are you ready for this? Because Ryan is your son? It's going to hurt seeing him angry. He's going to say ugly things, try to make you feel guilty." I stayed quiet a moment. I thought of Ryan as a baby, as a teen, all the times I supported him, hugged him, defended him. But I also thought of the Ryan, now the one who was never there, who chose not to see, who left me at the mercy of his wife. "I'm ready," I said firmly. "I'm not just his mother anymore. I'm also Eleanor, and Eleanor deserves respect." Valerie smiled. She squeezed my hand. There's the aunt I know, the one who doesn't let anyone walk over her. We printed 3 copies of the document. I signed them with a shaky but determined hand. Valerie hugged me before leaving. "When you're ready to deliver, call me. I'll come." I watched her drive away. I went up to my room and locked the documents in my bureau. The plan was ready. Now just the right moment. But first, I needed to know one last thing. I needed to confirm my suspicions about Ryan and Karen's true intentions, and what I discovered that same afternoon chilled my blood. That same afternoon, while putting away the documents, I heard voices in the garden. I peeked out the window of the small room. Ryan had come home early. He was with Karen by the fountain Henry installed years ago. They spoke low, but the wind carried bits of their conversation to my window. "Just 6 more months and we'll have enough for the down payment," Karen was saying. "Are you sure?" "Your mom is acting weird lately," Ryan replied. "Your mom is all drama. As long as she has Chloe near, she won't do anything. We have her eating out of our hand." I felt the floor open under my feet. "Maybe we should look for something soon. I don't want to abuse." Ryan's voice sounded guilty. "Oh, Ryan, don't be dumb. Your mom lives alone in this huge house. We're doing her a favor by giving her company. Besides, why pay rent when we can save here? In 6 months, we save the $20,000 for the down payment, and we go." Easy. $20,000. They wanted to stay 6 more months to save $20,000 while I paid everything. "And if she gets mad?" Ryan asked. "She won't get mad. She's your mom. American moms put up with everything for their kids. Besides, I took like $5,000 from her card and she hasn't even noticed." Ryan said nothing. He didn't scold her. He didn't get indignant. He just stayed silent. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. My son knew. Maybe not the details, but he knew Karen was using me, and he allowed it. I closed the window with shaking hands, not from fear, from fury. It was over. I went down the stairs. I entered the garden where they were still talking. "I need both of you in the living room, now." My voice came out so cold that both turned surprised. "Mom, what's wrong?" Ryan asked. "To the living room, now." We went in. I stayed standing. They sat on the couch, Karen with Chloe in her arms. I pulled out the documents I'd printed with Valerie. I placed them on the coffee table. "What is this?" Karen asked, taking one. "Read." I watched their eyes scan the lines, how their faces went from confusion to shock. Ryan read over her shoulder. "Mom, an eviction." His voice broke. "You have 30 days to find somewhere to live." "But why?" Karen stood up. "What did we do?" I looked at her steadily without blinking. "Are you really going to ask what you did? Really?" "Mom, if it's about the dishes, I already apologized." "It's not just the dishes, Karen. It's everything. For the 8 months you treated me like a free hotel, for changing my house without permission, for kicking me out of my own bedroom, for dismantling my sewing room, for using my credit card without authorization." Karen paled. "I didn't." $3,400. I pulled another document. "That's what you spent on my card, without permission. Here are all the charges. Zara, Sephora, Macy's, Home Depot. Need I go on?" "Mom, there must be a misunderstanding." Ryan interrupted. "No misunderstanding, Ryan. I heard you two a while ago, in the garden, talking about staying 6 more months to save $20,000, using my house as your personal piggy bank." Ryan went mute. Karen started crying. "Mom, I'm sorry. I just wanted Chloe to have a better life. At my expense, stealing from me, using my granddaughter as a shield whenever it suited you." "It's not stealing. We're family," Karen yelled. "Family respects each other, Karen. Family shows gratitude. Family doesn't throw 45 years of memories in the trash like garbage." "Mom, please." Ryan stood up. "You're my mother. You owe us support. We went through a tough time." Those words were the last straw. "I owe you support." My voice rose. "I gave you life. I paid for school, college. I gave you a roof for 30 years. I opened my doors when you needed it. And you know what? I don't owe you anything else. I paid my debt as a mother years ago." "But we're your family. You can't kick us out," Karen cried. "I can, and I am. This house is mine. I paid for it. I decide who lives here, and you don't anymore." Ryan fell back on the couch. For the first time, he really looked at me. Like after 8 months, he was finally waking up. "Mom." His voice was a whisper. "I'm sorry, too." I felt tears wanting to come out, but I held them. "I'm sorry it came to this, but you left me no choice." Karen kept crying with Chloe in her arms. The baby started fussing, feeling the tension. 30 days, I repeated. If in that time you haven't found somewhere to live, I'll proceed legally with the eviction. And believe me, you don't want it to come to that. I left the living room before they saw my tears fall. But something else was about to explode. Something I didn't even know. I didn't make it halfway up the stairs when I heard Karen scream, "This is your fault, Ryan. I told you your mom was a bitter old lady. That's why your dad died from pure anger living with her." I stopped dead. Those words pierced me like bullets. I turned slowly. Very slowly. I went down each step with a calm I didn't feel because inside I was boiling. "What did you just say?" I asked in a dangerously low voice. Karen realized her mistake. She tried to back up. "Mom, I didn't mean—" "Repeat it." I took a step toward her. "Tell me again why my husband died." "Mom, let it go. Karen is nervous." Ryan tried to intervene. "No!" My shout made them both jump. "I want to hear it from her mouth." "You think Henry died from anger living with me?" Karen swallowed, but I'd underestimated her. When she felt cornered, she attacked. "Well, look at this house. Old, outdated, full of junk. Your house is ugly in every way, that's why I had to update it." Something in me broke, but not from pain, from absolute clarity. I walked to my desk in the dining room. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared that morning after talking to Valerie. I'd kept it there waiting for the right moment, and this was the moment. "You want to talk about ugly things, Karen?" I opened the folder. "Let's talk about this." I pulled out the bank statements with charges highlighted in yellow. One by one, I put them on the table. $1,850 on new dishes, with my card. $320 on clothes for you, with my card. $180 on makeup, with my card. $450 on house decor, with my card. $600 on shoes and bags, with my card. I kept pulling papers. The piles grew on the table. "You know what this is called, Karen? Fraud, unauthorized credit card use. It's a criminal offense." Ryan stood up suddenly, snatching the papers. His eyes scanned the numbers, dates, charges. "Karen," his voice shook. "Is this true?" She didn't answer. She just stood there with Chloe crying in her arms. "Answer me," Ryan yelled. "Did you steal my mom's card?" "It's not stealing. She has plenty of money," Karen defended. "She lives alone in this huge house on her pension. What does she need it all for? We have a baby. And that gives you the right—" Ryan was red with fury. "That gives you the right to steal. Your mom owed us help. My mom told me. When you lend your house, you do it completely, not halfway. Your mom is selfish." "Enough!" Ryan's shout shook the walls. "Stop it, Karen!" For the first time in 8 months, I saw my son really defend something. Defend me. But I wasn't done. "There's more." I pulled another document. "This is the call history from my landline, the one in the kitchen. See these calls in red all to the bank. 32 calls in 3 months. Karen turned white. "I got an email from the bank 2 weeks ago asking if I'd authorized a credit limit increase. I never requested that. But someone called pretending to be me, and the bank has those calls recorded." I pulled one last paper, a screenshot of an email. "You intercepted my email too, right?" "The bank sent a notice of limit increase. I never got it, until I checked my email account and found someone had marked all bank emails as read and moved them to trash." Ryan looked at the papers like he couldn't believe it. "Karen, tell me this isn't true. Please." She started crying uncontrollably. "Your mom has us living on handouts, treats us like we owe her our lives. I just took what we deserved." "You deserved nothing." My voice came out icy. "I opened my house to you, fed you, kept you, gave you my bedroom, my space, my peace, and you repaid me by stealing, humiliating me, and throwing my history in the trash." I turned to Ryan. $3,400 in unauthorized purchases. But if we add utilities, food use of my property, you owe me over $16,000. "Mom, I didn't know, but you didn't want to see either." I looked him straight in the eyes. "You left every morning, leaving me alone with her. Never asked how I was. Never noticed I stopped cooking with garlic, stopped sewing, stopped being myself in my own house." Ryan collapsed on the couch with his head in his hands. Karen kept crying, but now they were tears of rage, not remorse. "You have two options." I held up two fingers. "Pay the $3,400 in unauthorized charges and leave in 15 days, not 30, or I file a criminal fraud complaint and a judge handles this." The silence that followed was deafening. Only Chloe's crying and Karen's sobs could be heard, and me standing in the middle of my living room in my house, finally finding my voice. Karen dropped onto the couch. Her crying changed. No longer rage. Panic because she finally understood I was serious. "Mom, please." Her voice was choppy. "Don't do this. Think about Chloe. She's your granddaughter. Are you really going to separate us? You separated yourself when you decided to steal from me." Ryan lifted his head, his eyes red. "Mom, give me time. I'll pay you everything, but don't file the complaint, please. Karen wouldn't go to jail right away. It depends on the judge, but with this evidence, it's likely she'd at least have a criminal record, and that means no jobs in many places, no loans, no travel to certain countries." Karen started hyperventilating. No. Ryan, do something. Tell your mom to stop." "Me do something?" Ryan looked at her with an expression I'd never seen. "Where were you when my mom needed help? When she had that chest pain and you went to lunch with your friends leaving her alone? Where was your concern?" Karen's eyes widened, surprised. "How do you know that?" "Mrs. Rebecca told me yesterday. She saw me at the store and asked how my mom was after the scare. I had no idea what she meant. I had to ask her. And I was ashamed, Karen. So ashamed to know my mom could have had a heart attack, and I didn't even know because you didn't tell me." "It's because I thought it was just drama." "My mom never does drama." Ryan stood up. "That's my mom. The woman who became a widow and kept this house going alone, who worked 40 years to have something of her own, and you call her dramatic." It was the first time in 8 months Ryan defended something with such passion. I wish it had been sooner. I wish we hadn't had to get here. Karen hugged herself, rocking Chloe. My mom told me that when a mother-in-law offers her house, it's her duty to support the whole family, that I didn't have to ask permission for anything because it was my right. And there it was, the truth behind everything. "Your mom filled your head with wrong ideas," I said tiredly. "And you believed them because they suited you." Karen broke down crying again, but different. This time there was some genuine remorse in her tears. "I'm sorry, really sorry. I don't know when it all got out of control. At first I just wanted to help with small changes. Then my mom said it was my chance to have nice things because you had money. And I never had much growing up. I always wanted nice things, a nice house. And when I saw you didn't say anything, I thought you didn't care." "Of course I cared. I just didn't know how to set boundaries without seeming like the bad mother-in-law, without pushing my son away, without losing my granddaughter." Ryan came closer to me. "Mom, forgive me. Forgive me for not being there, for not seeing, for letting this happen." I looked at him. I saw the boy I raised, the man he'd become, and also his mistakes. "I forgive you, son, but that doesn't change what has to happen now." "The $3,400. Ryan nodded. "I'll pay you even if I have to work triple shifts. Even if it takes a year, I swear I'll pay you. You don't have a year. I want you out in 15 days. "Okay, 15 days. We'll find something. Anything. Even a small room. But Mom..." His voice broke. "Don't file the complaint. Chloe needs her mom, and Karen..." He looked at his wife. "Karen made mistakes, but she's not a bad person." I looked at Karen. There she was, broken down with my granddaughter, in her arms, tears falling uncontrollably. Was she a bad person I didn't know? Maybe just a young woman, immature, badly advised by a toxic mother. Maybe in other circumstances we could have had a different relationship. But that didn't matter anymore. "I won't file the complaint," I said finally, "with 3 conditions. Both looked at me with hope. First, the $3,400 paid in installments, $200 monthly until the debt is clear. If you're late 1 month, I proceed legally." "I accept," Ryan said immediately. "Second, you leave in 15 days, not 30, and when you go, give me the keys and any copies you made." "I accept." Third, Karen writes me a letter by hand acknowledging everything she did, apologizing. She gives it to me before leaving, and I'll keep it. If you ever try to turn this against me, if you ever badmouth me to family or say I was the bad one, I'll pull out that letter. Karen lifted her gaze. She nodded through sobs. I'll do it. I swear I'll do it. Then we have a deal. I turned to go up to my room, but before reaching the stairs, Ryan stopped me. Mom, someday can you forgive us for real? I looked over my shoulder. Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting son, and it doesn't mean things go back to how they were. But yes, someday when you show with actions, not words, that you've learned. The next 15 days were the strangest of my life. Karen and Ryan moved through the house like ghosts, packing quietly, searching for apartments online late into the night. No more loud music, no more demands, no more fake smiles, just an uncomfortable, necessary silence. I didn't talk much either. I focused on reclaiming my spaces little by little. I brought my sewing machines up from the basement, cleaned the room that had been my workshop, hung the beige curtains back in the living room. Mrs. Rebecca came every afternoon with coffee and sweet bread. How do you feel, friend? Weird, like waking from a long nightmare. Because it was, but it's over. You set things right. On day 12, Karen knocked on my room door. She had an envelope in her hands. Mom, here's the letter you asked for. I took it without opening. Thanks. She stood there like waiting for me to say something. Is that all? She asked in a small voice. What else do you want me to say, Karen? I don't know. I thought maybe we could talk. That you'd explain how to be better, how to fix this. I looked her straight in the eyes. It's not my job to teach you respect. You should have learned that years ago, and there's nothing to fix between us. Just consequences to live. Her eyes filled with tears again. Do you hate me? That question surprised me. I thought a moment before answering. I don't hate you, Karen. Hate takes energy I don't have anymore. I just don't trust you. And without trust, there can't be a relationship. She left my room without saying more. Day 15 came too fast and too slow at once. Ryan rented a van. With a friend, he loaded the few things they'd brought 8 months ago. Now they had more. Much more. Things bought with my money without me knowing. They found an apartment in the city suburb. 2 bedrooms, 800 square feet, $1, $100 monthly rent. Ryan would work 2 jobs to pay it. Karen would have to find work too. Real life had finally caught up to them. At 4 in the afternoon, the van was loaded. Ryan came in one last time. Mom, everything's ready. We're going. Good. Here are the keys. He put them on the kitchen table. All of them. We didn't make copies. Thanks. There was a long silence. Ryan wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Mom, Take care of your family, Ryan, and don't forget the payments, first of each month. I won't. He came closer like to hug me. I stepped back instinctively. Ryan stopped. The pain on his face was clear. You're still very angry. I'm not angry. I'm tired, and I need space. He nodded sadly. I love you, Mom. I love you too, but love isn't enough without respect. He left the house. I stayed in the kitchen, looking out the window. Karen got in the van with Chloe in her arms. Before closing the door, she looked at me. Our eyes met for a second. I raised my hand in a neutral wave. Not a warm goodbye, not angry. Just acknowledgement that this chapter was ending. She nodded slightly and closed the door. The van started. I watched them turn the corner and disappear. And then the house was silent. A different silence from before. Not the silence of invasion of fear of walking on eggshells in your own house. It was the silence of peace. I stood there a few more minutes. Then I walked slowly through each room. The living room. No toys scattered. No bottles on the table. The dining room. No diapers forgotten on chairs. My big room. Empty. Walls with marks where they'd hung things. Floor with scratches from the crib. But it was mine again. I went down to the basement. There was my grandma's furniture, the wedding photo, the mahogany bookshelf. You can come up now, I whispered. We're home again. That night I slept in my master bed for the first time in months. The sheets smelled new. I had to buy a whole set because Karen took the one she used. I lay looking at the ceiling. The same ceiling Henry and I stared at before sleep. The same where we planned our dreams. I did it, love, I said to the emptiness. I got our house back. I set boundaries. I defended myself. And for the first time in 8 months I cried. But not from sadness. I cried from relief. The next morning I woke to birds singing. Not Chloe's crying. Not Karen's heavy steps down the stairs. Not the TV blaring from 6 in the morning. Just birds. I stayed in bed a few more minutes enjoying that precious silence. Then I got up, put on my favorite robe, the one Karen hid in the closet back because she said it was too old, and went down to the kitchen. I made cinnamon coffee, with sugar and spice, the kind I like without worrying if the smell bothered anyone. I sat by the window and sipped my coffee, slowly watching the sun light the garden. And I smiled. The first days were deep cleaning, not just physical, emotional too. Mrs. Rebecca came to help. Okay, friend, where do we start? The big room. I want it mine again. Between us, we moved the crib Karen left. We gave it to a pregnant neighbor, removed the changing table, the rocker, the mini fridge, sanded the wall marks. Painted them a light blue I'd always liked but never dared use. It looks gorgeous, Eleanor, like a hotel room. It looks like my room. That's what matters. I hired a locksmith, Mr. Esteban, a 70-year-old who's changed locks in the neighborhood for 30 years. Mrs. Eleanor, everything okay? Why change all the locks? Let's say I need a fresh start, Mr. Esteban. He understood without more questions. In 2 hours, the whole house had new locks. $120 well spent on peace of mind. I brought up the basement furniture with Mrs. Rebecca's son's help. The mahogany bookshelf back by the window. The wedding photo back on the main shelf. My grandma's sideboard back in the dining room. It was like the house breathed relieved. But I needed help too, not just physical. I searched online for psychologists in the area, found Dr. Patricia Montes, specialist in family therapy and boundary setting. My first appointment was a Tuesday afternoon. Eleanor, tell me what brings you here. Oh, and I told her everything. From Ryan's call asking for help to the day I kicked them out. No details omitted, no sugarcoating. Dr. Montes listened without interrupting. When I finished, she nodded. Do you know what you did, Eleanor? Something many women your age never achieve. You set boundaries. You said enough. You chose your well-being over guilt. But I feel bad, like I failed as a mother. You didn't fail. You taught them the most important lesson. That love doesn't mean allowing abuse. That respect is the base of every relationship. That you matter too. Those words freed me from a weight I didn't know I carried. I started going every week, $85 per session, the best money I've spent in my life. I reclaimed my sewing room, brought out my fabrics patterns my Singer machine inherited from my mom. The hum of the machine filled my soul. I made tablecloths, mended neighbors' clothes, embroidered napkins with initials. Not because I needed money, but because I needed to create again. One afternoon, Mrs. Rebecca came with a little box. Look what I brought you, friend. Inside was a small kitten gray with black stripes, huge green eyes. She showed up in my yard. She's alone, and I thought you are too. You'd make good company. I held her. She was so small she fit in my hand. She purred right away. Hello, little one. What will I name you? The kitten looked at me with those eyes like 2 moons. Luna. You'll be Luna. And so Luna moved in with me. She slept on my bed, followed me everywhere, curled in my lap while I sewed. For the first time in months, the house felt alive again. But alive with my energy, not others' invasion. The first of the next month, the doorbell rang. A delivery guy with an envelope. Inside, $200 cash and a note from Ryan. First payment, promise kept, love you, Mom. I saved the money in a jar. Not because I desperately needed it, but because it was proof they were learning. Little by little, the house stopped smelling of conflict and smelled of cinnamon, fresh coffee garden flowers. And I stopped being the scared Eleanor who tiptoed in her own house. I became just Eleanor again, owner of her space, her peace, her life. 6 months passed like sighs. 6 months of peace, of morning coffee without rush, of sewing late without anyone saying the machine noise bothered, of cooking with all the garlic I wanted. Luna grew, no longer that gray ball that fit in my hand, now an elegant cat who owned the couch like a queen. "At least you appreciate, right, Luna?" she purred in response. Ryan's payments came on time every month, $200 in envelope, always with a short note. Never missed one. We'd paid $1, $800, wound $600 left. But that October Thursday, everything changed. I was watering the garden plants when the doorbell rang. Luna ran to hide. She still feared strangers. I opened the door. It was Ryan, but not the Ryan from 6 months ago, haggard and absent. This Ryan looked different. Thinner, yes, but with clearer eyes. More alert. "Hi, Mom." "Ryan?" I stayed at the door without inviting him in. "Can we talk just 5 minutes, I promise?" I hesitated, but something in his look made me nod. 5 minutes. We sat in the living room. He looked around with nostalgia. "You put everything back how it was." "As it always should have been," he nodded without defending. "Mom, I came to tell you something, and don't think it's for gain or to look good." "I'm listening." He pulled an envelope from his jacket, put it on the coffee table. "Here are the $1,600 left complete. We don't owe you any more." "Ryan, the agreement was $200 a month. Where did you get it?" "I sold my car. It was the right thing. I couldn't keep paying drip by drip something Karen and I owed months ago. I needed to close this debt to really start over." I looked at him differently. This was the son I raised, the responsible one, who owned his mistakes. "Karen is working," he continued. "She got a job at a clothing store. Doesn't earn much, but helps. And I have 2 jobs, one part-time engineer and one nights watching a site. We're tired, Mom, very tired, but we're learning." "And Chloe?" His face softened at her name. "She's good, big, beautiful. She walks, now says words, asks about you, sometimes points at photos, and says Grandma." I felt a lump in my throat. "Do you talk about me?" "Of course. We tell her Grandma Eleanor is a strong woman who taught us to be better, and when she's older, we'll tell her the whole truth, so she learns." I took the envelope, opened it. Yes, $1, $600 in bills. "You didn't have to rush to pay it all." "I did, because while I owed you money, we were tied to the mistake, and I needed to close that cycle to ask you something." "What?" Ryan breathed deep. "Permission to visit you. Once a month. Have coffee. Talk. Nothing more. No asking anything, no bringing problems. Just reconnect. As mother and son. And Karen, she understands she has to earn your trust again. She doesn't seek you, but she asked me to tell you something." "What?" "Thanks. That if you hadn't kicked her out, she'd never have learned what it means to work for what you have. That she'd never have matured. That what she felt as cruelty then, now she sees as the push she needed." I was surprised to hear that. "Did she really say that?" "Really, she's in therapy too, with a psychologist her boss recommended. Working on her issues with her mom, setting boundaries, understanding why she did what she did." We stayed silent a moment. Luna peeked from the hallway, checking if Ryan was safe. "That's Luna," I said, pointing to the cat. "She's pretty. Does she keep you company?" "A lot, and she doesn't criticize my dishes." Ryan let out a sad laugh. "Mom's sorry, for everything. Not just the money or leaving you alone. Sorry for not seeing you were suffering, for not defending the house where I grew up, for forgetting what you taught me about respect." "You said sorry months ago." "I know, but now I say it different. Now I feel it for real. Because now I know what it costs to survive, pay bills, keep a family. And I understand everything you did for me for 30 years. His voice broke. I saw tears in his eyes. "And I understand how much it must have hurt seeing me choose Karen over you. Not because a son shouldn't defend his wife, but because I didn't defend anyone. I just closed my eyes and let it all happen." I got up from the couch. Ryan got up too, waiting. I took a step toward him and hugged him tight, like when he was a kid with nightmares, like when he graduated college, like when he introduced me to Karen first, full of hope. He hugged back, crying on my shoulder. "I love you, Mom. And I you, son, always. But now with boundaries." "With boundaries," he repeated. I understand. We separated, both with red eyes. You can come once a month, Sundays, at 11. You bring sweet bread, and I make coffee. His smile lit his face. Really, but just you for now. Karen and Chloe need more time. I understand perfectly, and Mom, thanks. Thanks for not giving up on me. He left with a lighter step. I watched him go from the window. Luna jumped on the couch next to me. What do you think, Luna? She purred. I took that as a yes. It's been almost 2 years since that Tuesday I found my dishes in the trash. 2 years since I said the words that changed everything. Well, you're going to use them in your new house because you're not staying here anymore. Today is Sunday, 11 in the morning. Ryan rings the bell on time as always. He brings a bag of sweetbread from the Hope Bakery. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, son. Come in. We sit in the kitchen, the same kitchen where it all started. But now it smells of fresh coffee and warm rolls. Luna jumps on Ryan's lap, purring. She adopted you already, I say, smiling. It's because she knows I love her. We talk about a bit of everything. About his job. He has only one now, better paid. About Chloe, who is 3 and talks nonstop. About Karen, who got promoted to store manager. After an hour, Ryan looks at me seriously. Mom, there's something I want to ask, and it's okay if you say no. Tell me. Chloe turns 3 next month. We're having a small party at the park. Would you come? Karen wants to see you. Wants Chloe to know you for real, not just in photos. I've learned that setting boundaries doesn't make me bad, that saying no is self-love. But I've also learned forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting go of the poison so it doesn't sicken my soul. I'll go, but only 2 hours. And Karen and I talk alone before the party. Really? But with clear conditions. This doesn't mean everything's back to before. It means I'm willing to build something new, different, healthier. Mom, you don't know what this means to us. And you don't know what it meant for me to reclaim my life. Ryan nods. He understands, finally understands. After he leaves, I stay alone in the kitchen. I pull down that box from the high shelf I stored 2 years ago. My cobalt blue dish set, the one I rescued from the trash, the one I washed so carefully, the one I thought I'd never use again because it hurt too much. But a few months ago, I did something special with it. I took it to an artisan who works with the Japanese technique kintsugi, that ancient technique where they repair broken ceramics by filling cracks with gold. They don't hide the breaks. They celebrate them, turn them into art. The artisan fixed every chip, every crack. Now my plates have golden lines that shine in the light. They're more beautiful than before because the scars tell their story. I take out a plate, the one Henry dropped so many years ago. Now the chip is sealed with a gold line like a small river. I serve myself coffee, sit by the window with my blue and gold porcelain plate. Luna jumps in my lap, and I think of everything I lived, how I got lost in silence, how I reclaimed my voice, how I almost forgot who Eleanor was to please others. I look at the garden Henry and I planted. The flowers keep growing. Some dried and we had to pull them, but others sprouted stronger, like me. I see myself in the window reflection. 70 years now, hair completely white, lines on my face that tell stories, but the eyes shine different. They shine like the gold in my dishes. And I want to tell you something, you who've listened all this time. If you're living in your own house feeling like a visitor, if someone is erasing your history because they don't value it, if they tell you you're dramatic for wanting respect in your own space, listen well. You're not selfish for setting boundaries. You're not a bad mother, bad mother-in-law, bad person for saying enough. True love doesn't ask you to erase yourself. It asks you to respect yourself first, to respect others. I learned my dish set wasn't just porcelain. It was proof I'd existed. I'd loved. My life had value. And when someone threw it in the trash, they didn't just discard plates. They discarded my dignity. But I rescued it, piece by piece, cleaned it, repaired it, turned it into something more valuable, and I did the same with myself. I rescued myself from the emotional trash where they'd thrown me, cleaned off the guilt, repaired with therapy and boundaries, and now I shine different. Not stronger, different. With visible scars, with the gold of lessons learned. Because the broken can be even more beautiful when you decide you deserve to be repaired. I raise my coffee cup. I toast to the window, to life, to myself, to the women who say enough, to those who reclaim their house, to those who learn saying no is a full sentence, to those who discover true wealth isn't what you own, but what you don't let them take. Luna meows. I think she agrees. And I, Eleanor Thompson, 70 years retired accountant, owner of her house, and Destiny sipped that coffee, savoring each bit. Because finally, after so long, I came home. To my true home. The one I carry inside. The end. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on your own boundaries, or if you know someone who needs to hear it, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Did you identify with Eleanor? Have you lived something similar? I'd love to read you. And if these life stories of women who find their strength when everything seems lost inspire you, subscribe to Elderly Stories. Here we share tales that remind us it's never too late to reclaim our dignity. Give a like if Eleanor taught you self-love isn't selfishness. See you in the next story. And remember, your dishes, your memories, your life aren't trash to anyone. Bye for now.